And I'm not sure if I said that an ostrich is an unclean bird, but it's not an unclean bird as far as eating it. It's the habits of the bird that we find mentioned in our Heavenly Father's Word in the book of Job, chapter 39. But the bird itself, it's like a giant chicken. It's just a great big old chicken. So its meat is good. It's just that it's the habits of it. And it's highly prized for the tail feathers. That's when we feather dusters and stuff like that, and all those headdresses of Egypt. That's what they were using the feathers for. So let's read just a little bit about it in Job 39, and we'll start with verse 12. This is our Heavenly Father talking to Job. Wilt thou believe him that he will bring home thy seed and gather it into thy barn? 13. Gavest thou the goodly wings unto the peacocks, or wings and feathers unto the ostrich? And this is talking about the ostrich, which leaveth her eggs in the earth and warmeth them in the dust, and forgetteth that the foot may crush them, or that the wild beast may break them. She is hardened against her young ones, as though they were not hers. Her labor is in vain without fear, because God hath deprived her of wisdom, neither hath he imparted to her understanding. What time she lifteth up herself on high, she scorneth the horse and his rider. I know most of us can recall about the ostrich having his head in the hole, or, head in the sand, that kind of thing. So basically, they don't want to hear any wisdom. So I believe that's where all this comes back to. The only other place I found in the Bible in reference to the ostrich by name is in Lamentations chapter 4. And I'll just start with verse 1. How is the gold become dim? How is the most fine gold changed? The stones of the sanctuary are poured out in the top of every street. Verse 2, the precious sons of Zion compared to fine gold. How are they esteemed as earthen pitchers, the works of the hands of the potter. Even the sea monsters draw out the breast. They give suck to their young ones. The daughter of my people is become cruel, like the ostriches in the wilderness. The tongue of the suckling child cleaveth to the roof of his mouth for thirst. The young children ask bread, and no man breaketh it unto them. They that did feed delicately are desolate in the streets. They that were brought up in scarlet embrace dunghills. For the punishment of the iniquity of the daughter of my people is greater than the punishment of the sin of Sodom, that was overthrown as in a moment, and no hand stayed on her. So those are the reference to ostriches. So just keep that in mind. Okay, this kind of got my curiosity up about this ostrich. It says, when threatened, ostriches run, although their powerful long legs can be formidable weapons, capable of killing a human or a potential predator like a lion with a forward kick. Ain't no yard bird around here ever did that. That's a mighty lethal chicken. The flightless ostrich is the world's largest bird. Ostriches have 3 stomachs, unlike all other living birds. The ostrich secretes urine separately from feces. Ostriches are the fastest runners of any birds or other 2-legged animals, and can sprint at over oh, it's calling it kilometer. It's 40 miles per hour, covering up to 5 meter in a single stride. They have 2 toes on each foot. Most birds have 4, with the long nail on the larger inner toe resembling a hoof. It says that the males and females take turns keeping the eggs warm. Ostriches have inspired cultures and civilizations for 5,000 years in Mesopotamia and in Egypt. Yep. They used them feathers. Don't see anything that would refer to them as being cruel, though. I'm not sure what that means. Okay, the word cruel found in Lamentations 4:3 says unused root, apparently meaning to act harshly, violent, by implication deadly, also in a good sense brave, cruel, fierce. Okay, so it just goes to show you that this word cruel has more meanings than what we think about it in today's time. So it could be that she's very brave, and it just says that she could, these birds can actually kill a man or a lion even with a forward kick of that deadly foot. There is a link at landofpyramids.org that if one wants to, they can go in and research in more detail the different crowns of Egypt. And I found this to be pretty interesting. I don't know exactly how accurate or factual it is, but it does show a bunch of the different headdresses and things. And of course, here's Upper Egypt. This would have been where the shepherd kings, the kingdom would have been in Upper Egypt at that time. But they're calling it the White Crown of Egypt. But it shows quite a few different crowns that I found very interesting. It's got the ostrich feathers. It tells us about when those came in. They're saying they're not sure why they started wearing them on the headdresses. I think that it was to signify wisdom, which our Heavenly Father tells us in His Word that the ostrich actually lacks wisdom. And he kept it from her for a reason. And so I think that is a sign from our Father to let us know when we see these kind of feathers stuck in these headdresses that they do not have wisdom, even though they may claim wisdom. But this is a really neat little link. So if I'm just kind of let this roll a little bit and just kind of show some of the different ones, and you can pause the video and check some of them out, or you can go to that website. It's landofpyramids.org. So, but I sure don't want to encourage anyone to get wrapped up in all of this, but it's just for clarification on some of these different headdresses that they've worn over the years. Now the swan, this is interesting. This is what we know a swan to be in today's English. The ugly duckling, or the ugly transformation to the beautiful swan and all that kind of stuff. Well, when we go in and look at the word, it's kind of different than just this bird here. Leviticus 11:18, and the swan and the pelican and the gyre eagle. Okay, swan is Hebrew 8580. It says a swan is described as properly a hard breather. That is the name of 2 unclean creatures. And it's saying it's a lizard and a bird, both perhaps from changing color through their irascibility, probably the tree toad and the water hen. And then it says mole or swan. In Hebrew 53:95, it says a primitive root properly to blow away. that is destroy. Now, isn't that an interesting description for a bird? And the pelican, and it says from vomiting, the cormorant. And the owls vomit, the vultures vomit. They vomit to feed their youngs. Now here's the stork. This is one of those unclean birds that's an abomination. And yet we have all these depictions of this unclean bird delivering our babies. This kind of blah blah stuff. The stork brought us a little boy or a little girl. But storks and herons are all part of the same family of birds. And it's interesting that Egypt, again, uses this family of birds in their, quote, fake religion, false idols, false religions. Here's an interesting little bird with these little feathers hanging off the top of the head. This is a blue heron. Here it is in flight. It kind of, its little legs just kind of dangle behind it. This is a depiction in one of the tombs. I don't remember which one, but here's this little blue bird. And she's definitely worshiping it. It's got the little ostrich feathers on the head here. Here's those two little feathers hanging off the top of the head. It's blue, blue-gray, what have you. Got more unclean. Here's that jackal. Unclean creatures. Here's something over here with a cobra on this crown or whatever. And look at these little bald-headed guys down here. Looks real religious, don't it? Yeah. Right. Okay, this is inside another tomb. Here's that blue heron or that stork-looking bird. It's all part of the same family. It's got the two little feathers hanging off the back. Here's that serpent scepter, and guess who's holding it? Horus, with his little blue head, little sparrow hawk. Okay, hawk, unclean, heron, unclean, and yet I can't remember all the exact details, but this bird has something to do with the creation. It's like the dawn or some such blah, blah, blah. Anyway, he's holding the serpent scepter. It doesn't matter. This is all false religions, idol worship, abomination. Our Heavenly Father gives us the words, and He tells us straight up about Egypt. I'm just going to briefly touch on this blue heron or whatever type of bird they want to call it. It's Bennu. The Bennu is an ancient Egyptian deity linked with the sun creation and rebirth. It may have been the inspiration for the phoenix in Greek mythology. Okay, so this bird is supposedly, according to Egyptian mythology, which changes every time they drop their hat, the Bennu was a self-created being said to have played a role in the creation of the world. It was said to be of the Ba of Ra and enabled the creative actions of autumn. It was said to have flown over the waters of Nun that existed before creation, landing on a rock and issuing a call that determined the nature of creation. It was also a symbol of rebirth and was therefore associated with Osiris, Serapis, whatever they want to call it. Some of the titles of the Bennu bird were He Who Came into Being by Himself and, quote, Lord of Jubilees. The latter epithet referred to the belief that the Bennu periodically renewed itself like the sun. Its name is related to the Egyptian verb meaning to rise in brilliance or to shine. Yeah, sort of like Lucifer, it just goes back to all of that. Talks about the pyramid text. Like Autumn and Ra, the Benu was probably worshipped in their cult center at Helenopolis. It also appears on funerary scarab amulets as a symbol of rebirth. The connection with the phoenix goes on and on. Anyway, I'm just going to, but just know that this is an unclean bird. It's a heron. It's kin to the stork family. It's unclean. It's idolatry. It is not good for us in the flesh to partake or eat of this bird. Neither is it good for us, and it is an abomination for us to partake of this bird spiritually because it is an idol of Egypt. So, okay, I'll keep all this in mind. And of course, then you got the all-seeing eye, and we've already gone through what all this means, and these parts of the eye. It's the six senses, and it's basically addressing the pineal gland, and it's trying to get you to worship and believe their false religions. It's really what it just simplifies it. Okay, more on this Anubis. You can see right here he's holding that serpent scepter. Can't see the end of it, but it's the same one. But you can look at the head of this jackal. I mean, this part could be the nose, and then that could be the ears laid back on the animal. But I wanted to go look and read up about this jackal. And here's some jackals. I mean, they look sweet. And God's creation is always wondrous. So now you look at this depiction right here of this jackal, with his hair standing up on his back. I can't tell if I'm not sure if that's an aggressive or a withdrawal. Maybe he's backing off, but it could be an attack pose. But I also want to look at these feet. I don't know how anybody would think that the Sphinx feet is that of a jackal. As we can see, you can't see the very paw but on this line, but you can see this forearm. I mean, this is a very powerful animal. And then you've got this little bitty jackal over here with these little straight legs, little stick legs. See, now here's a little bit better picture of the claws and the paws of this creature, this jackal. This is a golden jackal, but this does not look like a lion's paw. He's got a little bit of a forearm here, but I mean, this just does not look like no lion's paw. And these are really big paws. 2, 3, 4. It's got 4 toes on the front. These are really, really powerful looking paws. I don't think there's any doubt that these are the paws of a lion. Here's a little bit better picture of the Sphinx, but these are long forearms. And you see the toes. It does not look like no canine paw. And you can see how the head looks smaller than the rest of the body. It doesn't line up. So I do agree that this head has been changed, but looks like this was probably at one time a really strong hindquarter. And it's been chiseled. You can see how it's been chiseled down. So it probably came up and the mane come off of it. So you can just imagine how much has been taken off. And then you got to look at all the erosion also. You can see the toes. They're they're almost the same length. And this is not in the canine family. Canine's feet don't look like this. Here's one with the paw. I mean, it's still not in line with the position of the Sphinx, but you can kind of see the toes here. They're much more even in the length than that would be compared to a dog's or a canine. And this is a lion cub paw. You can see they're pretty close together, and there's a little bit of difference right here, which is normal because that's the way the paw falls. And then this is the pad, the bottom, the toes, and how it's shaped. This seems to be a pretty reliable photograph in reference to the track of a African lion. But you can kind of see how these two toes stand out just a little bit. As you can see on the left here, this is a dog's paw print or a canine. As you can see, these two toes are set well back from these two middle toes. They are much further forward. And when you look at the comparison of a lion paw print, these toes come way up high, much higher up. So when you look back at the Sphinx, you can see that this shape of this foot, which is more triangular in shape, and we can look over here on the right, this forms more like a triangle right here compared to the lion's, which is these toes are much closer, more even on the front than they are shown here in this depiction. So I don't think there's any question that anyone that would try to claim that the Sphinx at one time was Anubis, I think, which is a canine, I think, or they don't understand how to track an animal or what shape the foots are, you know, I mean, or the feet are. So we can look at this. This is another depiction, and it shows just how far these toes on a canine, how far they extend out. And there's no way that this could be, you know, mixed up with a cat print. It just is just not going to be there. Cats retract their claws too as they're walking, where a dog also does not. You can see the claws right here, but of course we don't have a print of the Sphinx. But anyway, I'm just, you know, kind of pointing that out. So anyhow, all right. So I'm done with my little rant about the Sphinx being called Anubis. That is just so bogus. It's beyond words. And you can even look it up in the dictionary if you want to go by that. It even calls it a lion. Okay, so it's always been referred to as a lion. I do agree. The head has been changed. It was a lion at some point, not Anubis. You know, just ain't buying that. It never was. That's the agenda.